This is Cult Confessions with Christy and Josie. Welcome to our podcast.
Trigger warning may contain themes of religious trauma and sexual abuse. Disclaimer: all information in this podcast is our opinion based on our experiences. We do not purport any of this content to be inherently factual and believe that each individual has the right to draw their own conclusion.
Hi, I'm Christy.
And I'm Josie. And today on Cult Confessions, we are going to talk a little bit about why it's been so long since we've released any content. Lots of things happened. Christy moved across the country. I got super busy with work. We actually had a pretty nasty fight, the two of us. And so it's been a little crazy getting everything back together, but we're very excited to be back and in a routine. We have a lot of things lined up for this year. We have a lot of guests lined up for this year that we're really excited about. I don't know, excited feels wrong because it's not like fun stuff that we're talking about.
Right. We're excited to be able to share their stories, though.
Yeah.
I would say.
So we have a couple more people from just different IFB churches. We have a couple of people that have just reached out. We actually had one lady that lives pretty close to me reach out that grew up IFB, and we ended up in Kansas randomly, both of us. So that was kind of cool.
That's super cool.
But yeah, I guess, Christy, do you want to talk a little bit about your move and how that's been?
So it's been, how long has it been? I mean, we moved right after Christmas, right?
So it's been like 3 months.
Yeah, so we went cross country with 3 dogs, 2 cats, 2 kids. And so it was pretty crazy. And it was winter too, so like a lot of snowing. When we got to our destination, it was blizzarding like crazy.
Really?
So yeah, it was like we were literally driving in to the town and it was snowing like crazy. We could barely see. And so then we didn't get our pods for like a week. So we were just sleeping on an air mattress and I didn't have like my computer or anything like that. So like we definitely couldn't record for a while. And so that was a lot. I feel like I was just so mentally, emotionally, everything physically exhausted from the move. And so I felt like that took me a while to recover.
Yeah.
And just like physically to recover. And then I feel like mentally it took quite a bit longer. So I had to set up obviously new doctors and new everything. So once I was able to set up with a psychiatrist, I've been kind of tweaking my medications just so I feel in a better place mentally because it was just so much anxiety and starting to get depression because of it too. And I think the biggest thing was the anxiety. Like I felt like I was having a lot of anxiety attacks quite often, and that's not like normal for me. So I also don't like to feel out of control of my emotions and stuff. So I think there's some people that like don't like taking meds because it makes them feel not emotional enough kind of thing. Like not in touch with their emotions.
That
But for
is
me,
something. Yeah, that's a big thing. That's why I was so resistant to meds for so long because
Mhm.
my mom had started taking some anti-anxiety medications, which she definitely needed. But I mean, this was well after I had moved out of the house. Like I was fully functional, relatively fully functional adult at that point. And I just felt like when I talked to her, she just wasn't fully there sometimes.
Yeah.
She like this, I would tell her something personal or emotional, she'd be like, okay, like not really have a reaction
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that I was so resistant, because I'm just like, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to
Right.
lose my feelings.
Yeah, and I think that that can be an issue for sure. So it's hard to figure that out. But also, I think when it comes to anxiety, it's a really hard thing to deal with in the sense of medication because the majority of anxiety meds will make you sleepy
Yeah.
and like mental health already kind of makes you
Fatigued.
tired. Yeah, because like especially if you have depression, it's like
Yeah.
you're kind of just always tired. So then on top of that, you have to take anxiety meds just so you don't kind of like spiral, and that makes you groggy too. So like I've been dealing with the upping my medications, I have been dealing with some fatigue, like extra fatigue. And so there's just been so much going on mentally for me and within like my personal life and stuff. So it's been hard because we've been wanting to come back
Yes.
and we've been talking about it a lot and talking about kind of like plans for the future, like the structure of the podcast and um, who we'd like to have on and what we want to do going forward and kind of like the future of the show. And I think we've come to like an agreement of kind of like what we're wanting to do in the future and stuff. But yeah, it's been a lot, honestly. It's hard. It's hard to move cross country with like a whole family and animals and everything. Like I call
Yeah.
it like my zoo because there's so many. But
Yeah. I call mine a menagerie. Like,
yeah, so yeah. But I think that it's been a lot because I think you might have felt that I was kind of like avoiding you in some sense, like probably for a while now, I would assume. But I think I've just been so mentally like overwhelmed that I just
yeah.
haven't had like the energy for
I
anything.
get that. I
Yeah,
get
and
that.
so it's been it's been really hard. And then we also like what like a week ago we had the stomach flu,
Yeah.
which I was like hoping we were not getting it this year and like
No
avoiding
such
it.
luck.
But no, like now that Arya's back in school, um, we definitely got it and it was horrible. So that's been so it's like it's just been one thing after another. And obviously, you know, like with the election too, like I feel like everything has just been like adding up with like depression and like stress and all the
Yeah.
things. So it's been really hard to kind of get back on the train of like doing things and you
Working.
know like unpacking is a whole thing on its own. It takes forever. So um yeah, but
Well, I hope,
how have you been?
yeah, I hope one of the not terrible parts about the move, Christy actually was close enough to me that I could make a drive up there.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I got to see her in person for the first time in, oh my God, what, 10 years? Like a
Yeah,
little over 10 years.
right.
Um, and I got to see Nathan, and I hadn't seen Nathan since he graduated, I think. Like,
Hmm.
it's been a minute. I got to meet your kids IRL. That was really fun.
Yeah.
I definitely considered kidnapping your dogs. Not gonna lie. Uh,
Yes, you got to meet most of my animals, not all of them,
most
but
of
most
them,
of them.
yes. I got to meet,
Yeah.
there's only
Oh,
two
and
cats
that
that
was
I have yet to
fun. That
meet.
was so fun. It was really, really nice to get together and
Yeah.
be together for once.
Yeah, it was rough. I felt bad because I felt like I left sooner than I had anticipated,
Hmm.
but I number one, I was exhausted because we had just had, it was like right, I think like New Year's ish, and we had just had some people over for New Year's,
Oh
and
yeah.
they came in from a couple of hours away. And we were like, hosting, and we were doing things, and we were having lots of fun, and like just, late night conversations, all that kind of things that you do when your friends come over, right?
Hmm.
So I was very eepy, and I didn't want
Yeah.
to crash on the drive home. Um, so that, and then just work has just been absolutely bonkers for me.
Yeah.
We are in the middle of so much. I don't think that I can go into like super details, but we're moving a lot of work around, and a big chunk of that is on the team that I manage, and there's just been a lot of project planning and research that's had to go into this that nobody else can really do. Um,
Yeah.
so yay me! It's been a lot. I think
Yeah, I think that a lot of people have been having also the fear of like uncertainty when it comes to their jobs right
yes,
now. Like there's a lot, like I know my husband's been really stressed about things going on in his company, and
yep,
then we have a few friends that are really stressed about what's going on with theirs, and so it's just been
yep.
the world is just very scary and stressful right now. So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think I don't know. Politically, everything's a mess. Everything's on fire. It's fine. We're doing fine. Um, and it's so hard. It's so hard politically because there's so much division and there's so much hate out there. I think from both sides. And it's
Right.
really, really hard to decipher what the truth is and what's actually going on and figuring out. So talking to friends of ours that are a little more in tune with some of those things, that's been helpful. And I think like I don't know, just reading all of the things. I don't know. It's a lot of information, and I feel like my
Like, I just feel bad for like obviously one of our friends has had to deal with like the whole Elon
yeah,
emailing situation. And
yeah,
so I think it's kept us, compassionate to the situation
very
because I feel like obviously if you're not going through it and if you don't know anyone going through it, it's kind of like, oh, whatever, like
right. You're not as like
it doesn't
empathetic.
affect
It
me.
doesn't really affect you.
Right. And to see it happening right in front of us and
Yeah.
like these people being told to email or else basically,
Yep.
um it's been a lot and it's
It
been really
doesn't feel good.
scary.
It doesn't feel good. Everything
Yeah.
feels very unsettled and imbalanced right now, and I I just feel stuck and maybe a little helpless to really do anything about it or really say anything
Right,
about
right.
it.
And I think that when you're in like a mental state of being kind of like depressed and like
Yeah.
stressed, it makes it really hard to be motivated to do things. And so I
Yes.
think that's been probably our biggest issue is like we've really struggled with being motivated to start up again.
And I think it's been
And
hard because we both had like spurts of it at different times. Like,
right.
I'll reach out and be like, hey, can we do this week? Can we do this? And we'll do this and we'll do this. And then, like,
Yeah.
I'll have like a really productive day where I'm reaching out to people and I'm responding to emails and I'm, talking to you about what to do next. And you're just like,
Mhm.
I'm tired, leave me alone. And then we'll have the opposite where like
Yeah.
you're just like, hey, I'm talking to this
I'm like,
person.
I'm so tired or
Yeah.
I'm so sick. I'm still sick.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the stomach flu stuck around for me, especially like
Yeah.
forever.
That was a
So,
minute.
like, I feel like I'm just getting over it,
Yeah.
honestly. Like, um, where it's like fully out of my system because it was rough. And um, I think being a sick parent is
Mm.
really, 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 really hard to
Yeah.
deal with. Like, being a sick adult in general, it sucks. Like,
Right. But
I
then
feel
you have
like,
that added pressure of taking care of your children, especially when they're sick
yeah.
and you're sick.
Yeah, so like it's hard because it's like when your kids are vomiting and stuff and all the things, uh you're also feeling nauseated and gross and then you
Yep.
have to like clean up
Yep.
their stuff and it's just a lot and it's hard to go through. So yeah, so it's been a lot. There's been a lot going on, and I'm sure everyone's probably been feeling this. Like, I would assume that the majority of our viewers have probably been feeling the same way. And I think that, you know, like, we are sorry that we didn't start up sooner and,
Yeah.
get back on as soon as we could. But at the same time, I feel like it shows that obviously we are human too, and we go through experiences and hardships just as much as any other person. And I would hope that this kind of like helps people feel not so alone in like feeling stressed and overwhelmed by everything
Yeah.
that's going on in life, and that it's okay to take breaks when you need them and to come back when you're ready. And
Yeah.
hopefully we will be a little more consistent from now on, that we're like
Yeah,
starting it
it
up,
was
getting it ready to go.
we were like almost there at the beginning of February, and then I had a surgery that I had to get.
Right.
That was very essential. Thankfully, everything's, I think,
Yeah.
pretty okay. Um,
Yeah, you got good news,
I did,
which is
yes.
good. Yeah.
We had a very minor cancer scare for me with one of my many laundry list of things wrong with me. So I had to get some biopsies done and a couple of other things. We found a couple polyps that had to be removed, but no cancer. Everything came back benign. So we're very happy
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, so that was something that was kind of going on behind the scenes as well,
Yeah.
is a cancer scare, which is like
It's
terrifying, and
very
we're
stressful. Very
we're
stressful.
so happy that it's not that, because
Yes.
that was scary.
Yeah, I've
And
got enough going on. Like I don't need to throw cancer in the mix right now.
yeah.
We don't need that.
Um but yeah, I think that going forward we're excited to um we do have like a lot of episodes already, in the making. But I would say that the majority of our episodes we do want to do as interviews, and kind of like allowing
Yeah,
others to like use our platform to share their stories. And so that's been something that like I think for me that's kind of like my biggest passion when it comes to this
I
show,
agree.
is being able to allow others to use the platform. But like obviously we want to grow the platform so that it reaches more people.
Right.
um I think that we're gonna try to start doing some like reacting videos as well. So we have like there's a the Ruby Frankie show, I think it's on Hulu.
I haven't
We
seen
are
it.
thinking of plan like I haven't seen it either, but I've seen some reactions of it. But
Hmm.
basically Ruby Frankie is a family, they were a family vlogger, like family vloggers, and they were Mormon.
Okay.
So, definitely within like the culty vibes. And a lot of what happened within like the abuse and the way that they treated them was very culty, in the sense of like, oh, you're acting this way because you're demon possessed,
Okay.
right? Like a
Okay.
lot of different things like that. And blaming children for things that aren't a child's fault, right?
Right.
And um yeah, so I would like to kind of go over that. Like, I don't think you've really heard all that much about the Ruby
I
Frankie
haven't.
situation. And so it'll be kind of like a fresh reaction for you.
Yeah.
And I've been following the case for a while, and obviously, like, I know that Ruby and Jody Hildebrandt, they ended up being like they're in prison now. But
Mm.
um yeah, it's just a really, really sad story, and obviously something that like we want to shine a light on, because when it comes to abuse in general, that's something that we care about with like children.
Very much.
And with the vlogging, like I think that it is super important to show that it's not safe for kids to be on video and like working and stuff. Like I feel like they definitely need to put more laws into place of like protecting children
Yeah.
from being used in that way. And I think there are places starting to, like I know California is starting to um make it so that they have to like give them a certain amount of income if they are on like
Oh, good.
30%. It's like if they're in 30% of the video, they have to give them a certain cut.
Good.
So hopefully like kind of making it stricter for family vloggers so that they can't just use their kids for views, which
Right.
is disgusting in more than one ways because there are a lot of predators online
Yep.
that like to just watch that content just for sexual purposes, which is disgusting.
Very much so.
And so there's that, and then on top of that, with the case, it's like the Mormonism, right? Like the religious aspect of it too, and
Hmm.
how that affects their family and the way that they view certain things, like when it comes to like sexual sins and so on and so forth. So I feel like it would be very relatable to like the cult that we grew up in.
Right.
And obviously, like we named our show Cult Confessions just so we can like talk about all
All
religious,
the
like,
cults.
yes, all of the religious abuse in general. So like I think we're gonna try to set that up and probably do like a viewing of that. And if there's anything that you guys ever want us to cover, please like comment down below or message us or email us.
Yes.
And we'd be happy to like look into it and put it out there for you guys. But yeah, I think that hopefully from here on forward, we're like in a good
Got it together.
space. But yeah,
Yeah. Um, I think that we should maybe talk a little bit about our fight.
okay. Do you want to
Okay.
start?
Sure. So, I want to say this was like what, like a few weeks, a month ago ish.
Honestly, I don't remember, but yeah,
Okay,
probably.
something like that. So,
The time, like, I feel like my timeline is just gone.
yeah.
I don't know
So
what day it is or anything.
I don't know. Yeah, Christy and I had a really nasty fight.
Yeah,
It was not fun. Um,
no.
I don't. How much detail do you want to go into? Because I kind of want to just like talk about how we resolved it and just like because I think that when you have PTSD, when you have anxiety, when you have those kinds of things, like all of something that can trigger you into a not okay state of mind,
Hmm.
is just amplified. So
Right.
there are things for me that were very, very triggering, and made me pretty angry. And I think that
Hmm.
there were things that I said for you that made you feel like you were afraid that I was going to leave. And you
Hmm.
felt very abandoned. And I think that both of those are fair and both of those are valid.
Right.
So, how did you feel like what part do you want to talk about?
Um, I just felt like I felt like we had a better relationship than like for like in the sense of like something in my mind that small like
Mm,
wouldn't break it, right?
okay.
Like you kind of like think that like your relationship's really good, but then when it's tested, you're kind of afraid. Like I thought that things wouldn't break us so easily, right?
Sure.
But like you don't really know until like you face
Yeah.
something hard or like an issue or whatever. So it's kind of hard to see how you work through it. I think that like I 100% have to talk through it and kind of like let you know like how I'm specifically feeling
Right.
about the situation and that like I didn't mean for like certain things to come across certain ways and like that I do feel bad for things that happened, right? But like I also wanted to also stand up for myself too in the sense of like not completely like just rolling over and like not
I
I don't
kind of
know,
felt
like
the same way.
yeah.
And I
And
think
and I
that
think that's okay. I think that if
I
like it's
agree.
okay for us to not have to like full
We don't
like I
have to
think that's
like bow down
healthy.
to each other. Like
Right. And I
there
think that's healthy because I don't think it's okay to just be like fully surrender in each fight and
I
just be like,
agree.
okay, I'm so sorry like for what happened. But like I think I needed to communicate with you and I felt like you kind of wanted to leave just because you were getting really frustrated, but I wanted to make sure we were in a good place. And I think that what scared me the most is like losing you. Like obviously
Right.
I don't want to lose our relationship, and to me that's what
Right.
matters most. So like I'm not going to say what you want to hear, but at the same time I'm going to try to like communicate. I'm trying to like just be clear with like
I think that we
with
were
how
both
I
kind
feel.
of
And
trying to do the same thing, but in very different ways and coming from very different perspectives.
mhm,
Because I think, like I told you, like, you are worth my honesty. And
mhm,
that's not always a good feeling to be on the other end. And I think I'm worth your honesty. And I think that you were very
mhm,
honest about some things that I said and did that didn't make you feel good. And
mhm.
you should be. Um, I think we were both trying to do the same thing, but just very different approaches and from very different
Yeah.
places. And it just got very, very messy. Um, and I think I told you, like, it would have been much easier to just, like I said, like you said, roll over, say sorry, and not talk about your feelings. But
Mhm.
that's not healthy. And
Yeah.
like I think that I've been through enough therapy and enough work on myself, especially in my relationship, because I used to do that with Theo. Like, he would get upset about something. I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. It's all my fault, my bad, and I will fix it. And not
Mhm.
have any semblance of standing up for myself, not be able to express my opinion, not be able to say, hey, you need to take some accountability here as well. And not be
Right.
able to take account. And I think the big thing for me was not being able to differentiate between self deprecation and accountability, because
Mhm.
self-deprecation is that, oh, I'm such a terrible person and everybody hates me, I'm going to
Yeah.
go eat worms, right? And then
Yeah.
accountability is saying, I did a thing and it made you feel a certain way, and I'm sorry that I made you feel a certain way, and I understand that, and I'm going to try to do better. And there's
Yeah.
there's a big difference there. For me, I was really just trying to, I, like you said, stand up for myself and
Mhm.
not just roll over, say sorry, and sweep it under the rug. Because
Right.
I think in any relationship, whether that's like a friendship, a romantic relationship, any relationship, like, if you want it to be successful, like, there's going to be hard things that you have to talk about and hard things that you
Right.
have to go through. It's just the nature of human beings. We're not always going to
Mhm.
agree, and there is going to be conflict, especially when you have people that are adamant about standing up for themselves. So
Yeah.
it's all about kind of how you get through that.
And
And
also I think like people that have a lot of traumas too, because we do have a lot of triggers. Like we,
yeah,
there's things are really scary. Like for me, I think that it ended up just like okay, so like because I've been having a lot of like mental health issues, I've kind of been avoiding gaming and stuff and like kind of
yeah,
being not there's times where like I don't want to be in the voice chat and stuff because I just feel already on edge and like
yeah,
I don't want to be tipped over into
right,
like an unhealthy situation. And
right,
I've been doing, the work that I need to do where it's like, getting help with medication and therapy and
yes,
stuff like that. So I've been trying really hard not to get into those bad spaces, but it's the issue of like I try to avoid scenarios that will get me into that mindset, but it's
right,
mostly because when I do, then it's hard to get out of that right
yep,
now because it is very sensitive right now, right? So like
right,
that was my biggest thing is like I just felt like very overwhelmed and like what the hell's happening and just like it was a lot and so then I was just like I wanted to just kind of leave because I'm like I can't do this right
yeah,
now kind of feeling. And I think that it just came off a lot different for you. Like I think that you kind of felt like abandonment kind of thing and like I didn't want to um
I think,
like I wasn't
I
there for
mean,
you kind of thing,
I
but for me in my mind
sure,
that's kind of like what I was going through. It's just
yeah.
like oh my god, this is so much. I can't. I
And I
need to
think,
go.
yeah, I think the way that I perceived that, like, and I mean, it's been kind of like off and on, right? Like, there have been times when we've been able to like hang out and game together, and there's been times when we can't or we haven't.
Mhm.
And I think for me, the way that I perceived that is, I don't necessarily want to call it abandonment, because I didn't feel abandoned. I think I felt avoided.
Okay.
So I think that I felt like you couldn't trust me with your feelings.
Hmm.
And that didn't feel great for me.
Right.
So, and I think like for me, when I think I'm pretty good at sensing like vibes, I guess. Like I felt
Hmm.
like something was off.
Hmm.
And I think in the past, like I would have just let it go and been like, I'm being crazy, it doesn't matter, whatever. But I messaged you and I was like, something is off here. What's going on? Let's talk about it.
Hmm.
And I think that that was good because I am so over the part of my life where I just sit in this little bubble of fear and anxiety and being
Right.
overwhelmed because the longer I don't talk about it, the more like it's
The
always
worst.
worse in my head. It's
Right.
always
Right.
worse in my head.
Right.
So I'm sitting here being like, she hates me. She's never going to talk to me again. And we just
Mhm.
blew this whole thing up. And we're never going to do the podcast again. And we're never going to do anything ever again. Like, we're never going to play games together. Like, that's kind of what's
Yeah.
going on in my head. So I'm just like, you know what? We're just going to talk about it. Even if it gets ugly, like, we're just going to talk about it because
Yeah.
we need to.
And I also I prefer if you're honest with me like throughout the relationship.
Yeah,
I think what sucks for me is um when people don't think our relationship is worth being honest
I
about like
agree.
what's going on currently,
I agree.
where they like wait till forever and then it's like they I feel like I'm blindsided of
Right.
like you've been doing all these things, this like that
Yeah.
you
Like
like
this
hate
laundry list of things
I
you hate
do.
about me or something
Right.
like
And
that.
like
That's
you
not going to
literally
help.
hate everything I am
Yes.
at
Yes.
this point. Like, why wouldn't
Yeah.
you tell me any of this?
Yeah.
And so, like, for me, then I feel like there's no fixing it because it's like,
Right.
you haven't been honest about any of this.
Yep.
So, like, how am I supposed to trust you when,
Exactly.
like, you're not telling me, like, bringing it up to me? Because I would like to know if I'm hurting you in a moment, if something's coming
Yeah.
off the wrong way or whatever. I want to know. Like, I don't like
Because
hurting people.
look,
I
nine
want to
times
be a
out of
good
ten,
friend.
it's not meant that way. But
Right.
if it's perceived that way, like I had this conversation with Aaron like a few weeks ago. We were talking, we were playing TFT, and
Hmm.
we were talking about like the political situation, and I what I said was I'm not a hardcore Democrat.
Hmm.
And that caused him some very intense feelings of like, do I even know who she is anymore? Like, what does she actually believe? Like, those kinds of things. And
Hmm.
what I meant by that was, I am not going to believe something because a political party told me to believe it. Most of
Right.
my beliefs align with the Democratic Party. Not all of them do, and a lot of them I'm pretty centrist, and some things I lean further right on and some things I lean further left on because I'm a human being and I have critical thinking skills and I make opinions based on those critical
Yeah.
thinking skills. Um and and
Like you're not gonna blindly follow
exactly, because I've
any
done
group.
that. Because I've done that and I'm not going to do it again.
Mhm.
So, I like when I said that I wasn't a hardcore Democrat, um, I felt immediately like his whole attitude changed. He was barely talking to me, like we were playing the game, and he was like very, we have banter usually, like we make fun and things like that, and
Mhm.
it wasn't happening. And so I gave it a few minutes because I was just like, maybe he just needs a minute, and but the vibe is definitely off. So it wasn't changing on its own. So I confronted it and I was just like, "Hey, the vibe is off. What did I say that's giving you pause? Like how are you processing this cuz I feel like something is wrong."
Mhm.
And we had a really good conversation and I was able to explain to him like this is what I meant by that and these are some things that we definitely do align on and these are some basics that are necessary, right? And he
Mhm.
also was like, "You know what? How shallow of me to immediately jump to that conclusion and treat you different because of that." So it was really really good on both ends. Like I was able to
Yeah.
be honest about some of my opinions and be honest about you know, a core part of who I am. And it was
Mhm.
accepted well. And he was also able to be honest about some things that he needs in friendships. And it was really, really good conversation. Be- that's just an example. Like I am not gonna sit here in this bubble of fear and anxiety about confronting someone, because 9 times out of 10, when you do have those open, honest conversations, it's gonna end better.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like that's kind of why I was like, I don't want to just like leave it as it is. I really want you to understand like where I'm coming from and like
Yeah.
the way that I was feeling. Because for me, I wasn't really angry with you guys or anything. Like I was just like overwhelmed. And
Sure.
there was a lot more going on like in my mind mentally of like, this is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't expecting it rather than like not wanting to help you guys or whatever, because
Right.
like normally I would
Right.
100% like be there and want to help you, but I just felt like there was just so much going on and I wasn't ready and it was a lot.
Right.
So and then I felt like it spiraled out of control very quickly.
Yeah.
But like for me, I'm like I don't want something this little to break us, because I thought that we like had a better relationship than that. And then it kind of triggers, like I had a really really big loss in friendship, and that's something that like Joan and Aaron have got me through,
Yeah.
and they were there for all of that. And it was just like she did that thing where it was like she waited to talk to me about all
Mm.
of these things, and then she just like sent me like a huge text
Oh
of
my
like
gosh.
all of these things that she like was annoyed about or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And it was extremely overwhelming and extremely like really really hard for me, because I
Yeah.
was like, I thought we were like best friends,
Right.
and now I'm seeing that like literally everything I've ever done has bothered you, basically. At least that's how it felt, right? And then I'm like sobbing on the phone with Joan and Aaron, just like, I don't know what to do, like I don't know what's
Yeah.
going on, I don't even know how to go like get through this. And we didn't like we ended our relationship because of it. Like it was over, and she like unfriended me and blocked me and all the things. Like it was insane. And so for me, I think that seeing how easily things spiraled, it like very much reminded me of that. And I was
Sure.
just like, well, this is it. Very much felt like it was over
Sure.
in my mind,
Sure.
right? Where I'm like,
And I think I
I
recognize
thought that
that.
it
I
yeah, I was
because
like, I thought that this meant more, like, for both
sure.
of us, and I was, like, just really sad that one thing, and, like, for me, it felt more little in my mind.
Mm.
Like, I don't know if it might have felt
I
bigger in your
think I don't know. It's hard because I think the initial like little spat was pretty little, but I think that
Mhm,
the things that were said and the way that we felt about the principle of the things that were said, and like the very I think that it's pointed out some very stark differences in our communication styles. I
mhm,
think that that felt big. That was
mhm,
big. And I think that like you had told me like while we were fighting that you felt that way. And that
mhm,
was information that I needed to be like, okay, I need to adjust. Like I need like she needs some reassurance here. So at the end of the day, I love you. I don't want to lose you. And that's
right.
like when we were able to say that to each other, that's what kind of when it started to like feel a
Yeah,
little bit better, and for me at
yeah,
least
because
it didn't feel as intense.
I think that it is helpful for me, and I don't know if it's helpful for you too, to, like, get to the point where it's just like, "Look, like, I know that we are struggling right now, but, like, you matter to me, and this
Yeah,
matters to
but the
me."
end goal is not to
Right.
separate, right?
Yeah. Right. And so, yeah, so we ended up getting to that point. But yeah, it's just been, I think, a lot of reassurance needed on both ends since then, because
Yeah.
it is scary, and it was our first fight, obviously, where
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, we've spat
We've had
100%.
some
We've had
disagreements about
disagreements,
things, but
but
like
we've never
we've never had
actually
a
like,
fight
yeah. And
before
so,
this.
and obviously, like, we 100% will have, I know that, I'm assuming the people watching our
Any human
podcast know that
relationships, yeah.
that we don't have the same beliefs on everything.
Yeah.
And that's part of like, I think our podcast like is the fact that we have different perspectives, and that we want people to watch this and be like, it's okay to have different perspectives and still have a relationship with that person, right?
Yeah. this
because
this did not change how much I love you. This did not change how
right,
much I value you. Like,
right.
I think for me, this has shown, like I said, some very stark differences in the way that we communicate and the way that we take in
Mhm.
information. It's very different.
Mhm.
And again, I don't think that's a bad thing, but I think that that's information that we need to have about each other to have a successful friendship relationship.
Right. So what would you say like going forward would be like if I hair in my eyeball? Um what would you say would be like a helpful thing going forward when it comes to like our fights,
I
I
think
guess?
that I think that there is value in stepping away for a minute. And I think
Mhm.
that because I chose to step away for a minute, and again, I did not communicate that very well, but I chose to step away for a minute because I knew that I was going to be nasty. I knew that I was not going
Mhm.
to be kind, and I knew that I was just going to pick and say mean things that I didn't actually mean.
Mhm.
And I think that there's value in that. But I also think that there's value, so for me, I think when I chose to do that, it triggered some abandonment things for you, and you didn't feel like that was the right decision for me to make.
Mhm.
And that again started this whole spiral of like, I was trying not to be mean and you're mad at me for trying not to be mean, like what are you talking about? And so I think but I think that there's also value in civil conversations. Honestly, I think for us future fights should be had face to face. Like, I think we need to get on a
Yeah.
call and talk about it, because through text, like, tone is so hard to convey. And
Right.
I think that there were some things where I'm just like, oh, you know, you read things and you perceive it a certain way, and I'm just like, what the fuck does she mean by that? Like, mm-mm. And I'm
Yeah.
sure that there were some of those things on both ends. And
And I also feel like when like you're face to face, like with anything, you probably wouldn't say as mean of
I
things
agree.
either
I agree.
because that's just how it is, like with the internet, right?
That's human
Like the
nature.
internet like sleuths and stuff like where it's
Yeah.
like they're trolls and everything, like where they'll say horrible things to you, but like in person you would never say those things. Or
Right.
like you would just like handle yourself a little bit less because you don't want to be like screaming at each other. But
Exactly.
like in a text you kind of can do that, right?
Yeah.
And
And I
so I
think
think that yeah.
so much of communication is nonverbal, right? So having that face-to-face kind of interaction is important because you can see my facial expressions, I can see your body language, like things like that matter a lot in communication. And
Mhm.
I think that that was probably something we could have done a lot better.
Just like normalizing like fighting,
Yeah.
getting over it, like dealing with it, working through it,
Yeah. And
saying
I think,
sorry. Like
yeah,
that's a
again,
huge thing.
saying sorry, and this is why this is another thing that was like very hard for me to feel good about like leaving our fight, is because I
Mhm.
felt like, you know, when you said that, you know, I got spicy, I definitely did, and I
Mhm.
overreacted to a lot of the things that you said, and that was not appropriate, and I apologized.
Mhm.
And I felt like it took so much back and forth for you to recognize that some of the things that you did or said also hurt my feelings and made me feel a certain
Mhm.
way, and to feel like you weren't making excuses for that, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And but once we got to that point where we were able to understand each other and we had both apologized at that point, it felt so much better.
Yeah. And I think that like also the way I say sorry was kind of you,
Yes,
but
yes.
like
We could talk about this
but
here too, because I
yeah.
actually talked to my brother about this. Because, okay, so my brother recently got engaged, and
Oh,
he's
okay.
like, I said sorry to my fiance, and like we talked about the difference in hold on, the difference between sorry you feel that way and sorry I made you feel that way.
Mhm.
And I think that that's something that isn't talked about a lot, but it should be, because it's two totally different things. Like,
Right.
I'm sorry you feel that way is kind of just like, this is all on you. I have nothing to do with the way that you're feeling, and fuck you. is kind of the
Hmm.
vibes between that statement. And then I'm sorry I made you feel that way is like I'm taking some accountability here for the things that I
Right.
did that
And I think
caused
I said
feelings in you.
that. I think I said that.
I
I
you did
I
you did after because you said sorry you feel
because
that way, and I think you meant it the other way. But then
no,
I saw those
yeah, I
words,
100%, yeah, I 100% mean it.
and
I
I yeah
always mean it as like I'm sorry. Yeah, like I'm sorry I made you feel that way
right
because for me, I am a very sensitive, like I'm highly sensitive,
yeah
and and I feel a lot of people's feelings and stuff, but so feelings matter a lot to me. So like
yes
when I make you feel a certain way,
yeah
I am very sorry
yeah
that I'm making you feel that way because I don't want to
I
make you feel
think
that way.
and
Like that's not how I want to make
yeah
you feel.
like looking back on that, I feel like that's what you meant. And then,
Yeah.
but again, but reading that and not having the face to
Because I
face,
just
like,
remember you said something and I was like, but I am sorry I made you feel
I
that
know,
way. I'm
because,
so
yes,
confused.
because you said, I'm sorry you feel that way. And I was like angry about that. I'm just like, that's a bullshit apology. And I screenshotted something saying, like, from a
Yeah.
website, that's a bullshit apology. And you're just like, what are
Yeah.
you talking about? I'm sorry. I made you feel a certain way. I'm just like, see, that's a difference. I made those two
Yeah.
words
No,
make a
I'm
big
like,
difference.
but I am sorry I
Yeah.
made you feel that way. What do you want from me?
Yeah, and I think that again, I think that having some of those really important conversations over text are probably not the way to do it.
Right.
Because, talking to you
See,
face
like
to
that's like
face.
the opposite. Like with my husband, I feel like he works better with talking through text
Mhm.
because he is avoidant and like
Yeah.
shuts down very easily. So
Yeah.
like if we're having like a full on conversation of like feelings and things like that, like he just doesn't talk.
Yeah.
So
Nathan's
like
not a big feelings person.
no, and so the only way to really get feelings from him, this has been a thing forever, is like we'll be in like separate rooms and we'll like text.
Yeah.
And that's like the only way for him to kind of like say his piece.
Yeah.
Because he really struggles with like communication.
Yeah.
Which therapy, guys, get therapy. It's
Gotta get
so good for
therapy.
you.
Gotta get therapy.
It helps you with
Well,
communication issues and
and
fighting.
I'm gonna say like even in okay, so individual therapy is super important because you've
Hmm.
got to work on yourself first. Like you
Right.
have to and it's a really hard process, but you have to go through differentiating self-deprecation and accountability, understand the difference and have a safe space to take some personal accountability, feel those feelings and understand that you're not always the good guy.
Hmm.
And really come to terms with that. And also,
Right.
I think seeing the difference in that also makes it a lot easier to it like going forward and in any type of communication, it makes it way easier to decipher I'm feeling this way because I'm reverting to self-victimization or I'm feeling this way because I really think they're wrong. Like there's a big difference in like the cause of some of those feelings and that's so
Right.
important.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that we're in a better place,
I think
hopefully.
so. I think
um,
so.
yeah. And I think that, yeah, I've just been so overwhelmed with like being sick and like my mental
Yeah.
health and like I just feel like it's nonstop. Like
Yeah.
everything's been so nonstop.
The
So
last couple of
yeah.
weeks have been absolutely crazy for me at work. Like so one of my like, I guess things that I volunteered to do because I just like pain. I
You
volunteered.
can't say no.
It's not even I can't say no. I'm just like, oh, this needs to be fixed. I'm just gonna fix it and do everything
Mhm.
because, I don't know, fuck it.
Like it's easier for you to do it rather
Yeah.
than to like have someone
And
else do it.
so one of those things at work is I run and manage hiring and interviews for the entire department. And we don't have a ton of hiring, but we had three roles that we were hiring for over the past couple of months, two of them at the same time. And I did all interviews for that in the span of 1 week. I did over 20 interviews
You,
last week.
oh my God.
That's a lot of
That's
interviews.
crazy.
And
Yeah.
I love interviewing people. And I also interviewed for another job as well that I had applied for. So it's like all different things. Um, I love interviewing people. I love getting to know them. I think I'm really good at interviewing people, and it's something I really enjoy about my job. But 20 in a week is a lot.
Yeah.
And it's not even just the conversations. Like, you're managing the documentation, you're managing the notes, you're managing like the recruiters and their relationship with the candidates. Like, you're managing all of this other piece of everything that goes along with that. Um, so between that and then like doctor's appointments and everything, like last week has just been so hectic for me, and I feel like we just haven't really talked a lot.
No,
So I
no,
think
it's been
that,
hard.
yeah,
It's been hard because it's also like I have like personal things going on, obviously. And having to figure out communication in that area at the same time, like trying to balance friends
yeah,
and work and stuff. It's like all of it. It's just it's just
it's just
been
everything.
so
It's pulling
hard.
it like all
Yeah.
directions, it feels like
Yes. And so
sometimes.
it's just been really hard, but I'm hoping that we are back on it
I
and
hope
able
so.
to like do this officially. I think once we get in the groove, we're like ready to go and stuff.
I
But
already feel better,
yeah.
like having done like this recording, like having
Hmm.
both of us intentionally made time for it, and like even just doing this, I feel so much more excited about everything else that we have planned.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, so we're still doing the show.
Yes.
We'll
Yes.
probably clickbait the fuck out of this episode
Yep.
though. Um but yeah. So I don't know, let us know how your year has been. What's going on with you guys like down below. Cuz it's been a lot and you know, I think it's important to have people around you to listen to you and just be able like people to vent to and
Yeah.
really really important. So
Yeah.
um yeah.
So I think that about wraps it up for today. I hope that that was a sufficient explanation as to why we've been a little bit AWOL recently. But like Christy said, we're very excited to get back into it. We have so many things planned that we're really really looking forward to throughout the rest of the year. We have some interviews and some like pre-interview conversations booked out until I think we're in May now. So we're feeling pretty good about the content that we have planned.
Right.
But thank you all for watching, for listening. Appreciate you still sticking around, even though we've been gone a little bit. Please remember to like, subscribe, follow, leave comments. We appreciate the continued interaction, the viewership. Yeah, but I think that's it for today.
Bye guys.
Bye, everyone. Share your story.
If you have been affected by religious trauma or abuse, we want to hear your story.
Even if you're not ready to share publicly, we would be happy to listen and support you on your journey, free of judgment or pressure.
Please email us at cultconfessionskjv@gmail.com to get started.
We believe you.